Howdy, this is David Groce, your Texas tax and lawman, discussing another bad idea, communism. Last time we started with socialism, which Webster tells us is the intermediate state in communist theory between private ownership and public ownership of everything. Communism is Karl Marx's philosophical and political construct that calls for a revolutionary overthrow of the existing power structure and the rise of a new state where private property is outlawed, the government owns everything, the all-wise party distributes everything equally to all people, and we abandon the need for God because government now meets all our needs. Well, this is an illusory promise, a promise to promise. Communism promises that everyone gives all their property to the state in exchange for the promise of the state to meet all their needs. I am shocked that such a broken ideology has received newfound appeal among the elites and the young. Like all good lies, communism promises you everything you want without telling you what it costs. They promise food for everyone, fair treatment for all, in a world without class or rank. These promises of good could not be further from the truth. So, for a little fun, let's review the top 5 epic fails of 3 communist regimes. Let's look at the Soviet Union, the Chinese Communist Party, and Venezuela. Let's start with Russia. No one disputes the atrocious arrogance of the Romanov dynasty in Russia. The rich few owned 95% of everything, and the neglected masses labored as serfs under an antiquated feudal system. The communist Bolsheviks promised the people that if they overthrew the czars, the power and property would transfer to the people. Well, sadly, the people bought the lie, and they traded the monarchy for the Politburo, or ruling party, that confiscated all private property, murdered all political opponents, and demanded that the state be worshipped as God. So let's look at the top 5 fails. Under Soviet Russia, famine and starvation replaced subsistence farming. Everyone decries the brutality of Nazi Germany's estimated 20 million deaths, but many scholars estimate that the Soviet Union killed over 100 million people. Check out this article in the Wall Street Journal. Finally, promises of fair wages turns into fixed wages, and the government assigned jobs. There was no room for personal advancement except in the service to party. And of course, free housing turned into tenement living with bread lines and bare necessities, and human life became expendable in service to the party. In Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare famously penned that a rose by any other name smells just as sweet. Well, the same is true for communism. In any other country, its evils are just as bad. Let's look at the communist rollout in China. Chinese communists not only eliminated personal freedom, but implemented the atrocious one-child policy that brutally aborted female children and forbade married couples from having more than a single child. This imbalance has created an unsustainable population. Scientists call this the 4-2-1 dilemma. You can check out this article on the BBC. The centralized government has demanded control and has actually slowed Chinese modernization and industrialization. The promise of a thriving urban area and escape from subsistence farming has produced 2 terrible results. We now have mass poverty in urban slums, and we have mass starvation and food shortages. China is the largest food importer in the world. Its broken government programs fail to meet the basic nutritional needs of its own people. Americans today rightly decry slavery and human trafficking, but the Chinese Communist government still has forced government internment camps today. Read slave prisons. You can check out this article in Forbes. And in case we think that maybe smarter people in the Western Hemisphere can do a better job than the Russians or the Chinese and realize the communist ideal, let's not forget the abominable failure of Venezuela that we have witnessed in our own lifetimes. In just the last 20 years, Venezuela has fallen from the richest South American country to the poorest. Before the communist revolution of Chavez and now Maduro, the Venezuelan bolivar, their currency, fell from 10 bolivar to $1 to today's value. Are you ready for this? 361,357,054,794 Venezuelan bolivars to buy $1. Want to talk about inflation? Did you know that only 46% of the people in Venezuela now have a job? That means 54% are unemployed. And 96% of the people in Venezuela now live in poverty, and only 10% of Venezuelans have reliable electrical service. This short recitation should persuade us that communism is a failed social experiment. It promises paradise, but offers the Russian gulags instead. So then why does everybody keep pushing it? To me, the answer is simple. Raw arrogance. The leftist elites think they are smarter and better, and if they were put in charge, everything would really work out. I hate to tell them that a bicycle with no wheels goes nowhere, no matter who is riding it. If your kids or grandkids seem intrigued by communism, just wait until they get their first paycheck and they ask you, why is the government taking so much of their money? Well, you'll have the perfect opportunity to explain. Until next time, adios. Texas tax and lawman legal disclaimer. Hey, I'm a lawyer. You know I have to have some lawyer mumbo jumbo. This is a general information video, not client attorney privilege information. The content is information only and is not directed to any specific facts or circumstances and cannot be relied upon as a legal opinion, even though that would be nice and save you a trip to the lawyer. If you have a specific legal question, feel free to contact David Groce directly or seek qualified legal or tax counsel in your state of residence, state of mind, or whatever place you call home.